Thank you for joining us on the Ultimate Leadership Podcast. And here's your host, Chris Cebollero.
Well, once again, it's time for the Ultimate Leadership Podcast. I got to tell you, I'm very excited. Anytime you guys come and join us and we get to share some of our leadership knowledge, it's quite the honor for us to do that. So thank you very much for joining us again. You know, when we think about our professional success, I think there are many factors that go into defining our achievement. You know, you should have a solid skill set, above average knowledge. You know, you need to have a solid business expertise. Now, one of the things that you could do is you can develop this knowledge, you know, you can develop these needed skills and all this experience on your own. And usually this happens by making mistakes. And, you know, when we reflect on those mistakes, we grow and we know that we don't want to do those things again. Now, that's not a bad way to learn. And one of the things that we really have to get into the understanding of is that making mistakes is a part of our growth. You know, what's the one thing that you ever did the first time that you did successfully? And when we think about, you know, how we make mistakes, it really kind of helps us and gives us that development that we need. But another way to gain this expertise is by having a mentor. And what's funny, we know that the importance of mentorship, we hear that there's an importance of mentorship, but usually there's two big failures in the business world. First off is that the individuals don't use and benefit from mentorship, but secondarily, the people who could be mentors aren't stepping up to take that responsibility. You know, one of the things that you got to know is that aligning yourself with a mentor will allow you, you know, the assistance from their experience. You get to learn from their knowledge. And what's more important is they can guide you in developing those future opportunities. So the question is, how do you best find a mentor? When you find a mentor, how do you know that that mentor has your best interest in mind? And then how do you develop the trust in following the guidance of the mentor? I mean, all important questions. In today's show, we're going to answer those questions and more. I got to tell you, I'm thrilled. And that's right, I said thrilled to introduce our guest today. He's an accomplished author of multiple books, but specifically the book MentorU. He's an accomplished speaker and an associate minister. He's coming to us all the way from the sunny state of Florida, Tom Goodlet. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. I'm very excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
And more importantly, I'm excited to have you. And one of the things that we think about mentorship, I think the first question I want to ask you is, why is mentorship so important?
Well, one, it's a dynamic tool that I really think stands above the rest. I think the thing about mentorship itself, it allows you to go deep and to grow fast. In other words, sometimes we can go to the conferences and there's great stuff at conferences and great stuff that we can hear even in podcasts and reading books, but it doesn't always all apply. Where mentorship, you hone in on you, if you're the one being mentored, or you hone in on somebody else, and you get to kind of peel back the layers of what's really needed, what's truly helpful. You get to really kind of laser focus on their growth. And or your growth if you're being mentored, and so it's really an efficient way to learn and grow, because the topic is you, and you don't have to steer away on side topics. You get to kind of hone in on that. I'd also share too that you get your sense of accountability. You're talking about mistakes. I love that. I think one of the beauties of making mistakes is you don't want to be alone when you're making mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes, those are the most teachable moments. And the beauty of a mentor is when you have that trusted person alongside you and you make a mistake, that's a teachable moment where you have somebody to kind of have the conversation back and forth. Okay, why did that mistake happen? What are we learning from that? That way you're able to kind of dissect what happened and learn from it. And it's a lot harder to do that when you're alone, or you don't have the audience, or you don't have somebody who's has a vested interest in your success. And mentorship kind of meets that compatibility, companionship. You're not alone. You have somebody to learn with you and also help you learn.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Tom. I think one of the things that we need to understand is when we think about mistakes, you know, we've got this bad misconception of mistakes. Ooh, we made a mistake. Ooh, we failed. And we carry those like badges of honor. And, you know, we're not historians. We don't need to worry about yesterday. What we need to do is worry about what's going on today. And it really is not making the mistake that's the failure. It's not reflecting on the mistake and then learning from that and know what you could do better next time. But I like how you said that, is that, you know, here's somebody that can go be side by side with you, that when you make that mistake, you have the opportunity to reflect with, and you have the opportunity to talk it through. You know, one of the things, I'll tell you a quick story and then kind of get your response to it. is when I was in the military, I had a chief master sergeant who was complaining about a process. And I said, Chief, I think we need to try this. Well, for dramatic purposes, he slams his hands on the table and he says, you know what, Sergeant, I've tried that 100 times and it doesn't work. And I felt about 2 inches tall, Tom. But then he said, but who's to say it doesn't work the 101st time? Go ahead and give it a try. Well, it didn't work the 101st time, but he didn't stifle my creativity. And then after that process, we got to chat about it. And, he kind of helped me reflect on what the challenge was. But I think that was a very valuable teaching moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's mentorship's the safe place to look at that. I can think of moments in my own life where my mentor suggested I not take a step, and I'm like, well, I'm going to take it. He's like, go for it, and sure enough, and we come back, but then he can go, okay, well, why didn't that work? What did you learn? And all of a sudden, I mean, let's be honest, we learn more by doing anyway. We learn more when we take the time to dissect it. One thing we got to admit, it's not failure unless you give up, and so mistakes are always part of that learning process, and I always like that idea. As long as you don't give up on it, as long as you do dissect it, it's really not even failure, it's learning. And the mentor is kind of the person who comes alongside you too and prods you along, gives you the encouragement, helps you pull through the dark time of that mistake to see its potential productivity that comes with it, the potential success that's waiting to happen because of that learning experience. And I think as leaders too, if we're going to grow, we're going to make a ton of mistakes. If we're going to grow, then that's all they are, is mistakes and learning experiences that then launch us to the next level. And we need that cheering section. We need that mentor by our side to help get us into the celebration part of it.
Yeah, I kind of like how you put that. So if we know the importance of mentorship, how do we go about finding a mentor? I mean, do we put an ad in the paper? Do we put something up on the bulletin board in the break room? How do you pick somebody that you're going to trust that is going to help guide you in your career?
That's a great question, Chris. I think we have to be honest with ourselves going into mentorship. In other words, we know mentorship is beneficial for everybody, but not everybody is ready for mentorship. And I know we kind of hold it out in our organization. It's not something we want to force on you. It's something you want to make a part of your life when you're ready to make a part. And it really, I would say it requires two things. Here's my illustration. I've got 3 kids. My wife and I, we got season passes to Legoland. We live in Florida. My kids are young enough. They love Legos. I got 2 older boys, a little girl. And the beauty about Legoland passes is it gets you into the amusement park, but if you go on further back, there is the water park at Legoland. And so when summer hits, we go straight to the water park. And in the water park, there is this one slide that every great water park that I've experienced has this type of slide. I can't remember the exact title of it in Legoland. I'm just going to call it the Wedgeinator. It's that really super tall slide that if you're brave enough to go down it, it's a steep drop. It's a fun ride. However, your bathing suit does rise a few inches higher than you want it to before it's all over. My oldest boy, he's the more cautious one. And before the summer was out, I told him, I said, Parker, I said, just so you know, this is one of our last days to use our passes, and you happen to grow tall enough to meet the height requirements of this slide. And in the meantime, I have the younger son who's 2 years younger, and he's chomping at the bit going, Dad, I want to ride the slide. I'm ready. And he's the one, I believe he would fully hike up the several flights of stairs to go down this steep water slide if we let him. But he doesn't yet meet the height requirements. And I think it really takes both. I think in mentorship, there's some really requirements you want to meet, and I'll go over those in a second. But it also is going to take some resolve, some courage to walk up those ladders to get to the top, and then to actually take the ride. I think the ride's worth it. It's really the fear is before you take the ride on mentorship. The anxiety is walking up those stairs and those steps of mentorship, and actually taking a chance and sliding down. The end of the story, by the way, is my older son. He built up the courage before the day was out, rode the slide, and then loved it and rode it several times after. But I think when we're looking for a mentorship, in order to really do it well and head in a good direction, if we go back to the requirements, in the book, we went ahead and we made an acrostic. We wanted people to be able to make a clear choice, to basically look around your circle of friends, your circle of coworkers, the people who are in your life, and to maybe look at them in a different light. And basically, we wanted people to be able to make a clear choice of who should be my mentor. And so the acrostic breaks down. The C in clear is connect. Who do I naturally connect with? In other words, you don't want to force a relationship. A lot of times, mentorship just takes an organic relationship and targets it deeper. And so you want to look at who do I naturally, who do I laugh with? Who is it not hard to be around? Who do I naturally talk to and they talk with me? And so you're looking for a natural connection. The L in the acrostic, we use learn. Who can I learn from? Or if you want to mentor somebody, is to look at somebody you connect with and go, who can learn from me? And it doesn't mean they can learn everything from you, or it doesn't mean you need to learn everything from your mentor. It may just be one thing specifically. Asked a guy to mentor me who I thought was just great at whenever there was a person we didn't know, he was great at starting conversation, getting to know them, getting to know the needs in their life, the wants in their life, getting down to the nitty-gritty of who they are, and he could do it in 2 minutes or less. And I wanted that skill, and I asked him to mentor me in that particular skill. I knew I could learn from him. The E in the acrostic would be excited. Who would you be excited to mentor you? You don't want to have to manufacture that excitement. You don't want to have to manufacture, the passion to want to mentor. Who would you be excited to pour into as a mentor? And so that really goes both ways. Where would you have the energy and be excited to just get together? If they said yes to a mentorship, who would excite you? The A is authentic. I think this one is sometimes the stumbling block when finding the right person to mentor you or the right person to mentor. And that is, you want somebody who is already real with themselves. You want somebody who isn't trying to be somebody they're not, isn't in denial of their weaknesses. You want somebody who has already kind of peeled back the layers of themselves in life to know where they're strong, where they're weak. Because if you don't do that, then those layers are still going to be there, and you're not going to be able to go very deep, and you're not going to be able to grow very fast because you'll still have those obstructions in the way. They're not being honest with who they are in themselves, and they're not willing to be honest about themselves. I can think of a particular situation where a very good friend of mine asked me to mentor him, and I was reluctant. It wasn't because I didn't connect with him. I definitely connected with him. I definitely had some stuff he could learn. I enjoyed my time. I was excited to be with him. But I told him, I said, look, I'll be happy to mentor you if you can just answer me this one question. And he's, sure, shoot. And basically, I said, what's your major stumbling block in your life? What's the one weakness in your life that continually gets you in trouble? To be honest, he couldn't answer. He didn't know. And because he wasn't looking, and really he had pride issues was a bit of it. And until we could peel back that layer of the onion, we really couldn't go any deeper. And it would have been a waste of our time. And so I've still left the invitation open. When you could come back with an answer, let's talk mentorship. But sometimes people just aren't ready to go there. People aren't ready to dig deep because it will be looking at weaknesses. It will be looking at mistakes, but in a safe environment with somebody who's got a vested interest in your success. And then the last one, the R, is reliability. I mean, you want to look at somebody who shows up on time or who shows up when they say they're going to show up, or then it's kind of pointless to set mentorship meetings if they're not going to be there in the first place. And you want somebody who's reliable, either end, whether you're mentoring them or they are mentoring you. The other thing I'll share too is the whole resolve factor, and that is, I think it should feel like you're asking somebody out on a date that you've had a crush on for a long time. I think it's that kind of nervousness that you want in the mentorship experience. I think fear is often the indicator that we're onto something good, and if we can get past our fears, we can get to that good. And so I think that it should feel a little risky in saying, hey, I've been thinking about this. Would you be interested in me mentoring you, or would you be interested in mentoring me? Part of getting over that nervousness, if they say yes, it's kind of like asking that person out on a date, and there's more excitement already to it that you reached out there, you got the courage to step up the ladder and actually and ask them if they'd be willing to do it and to get past the fear. And then I think you're ready to roll.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice, and I really like that, that acronym of how it kind of takes you through that process to say, these are the things that I want to look for. I have a clear direction on what I want in a mentor. One of the things that you said earlier, though, is that you had a mentor, you kind of chatted with them and said, this is what I want to do. Well, maybe you shouldn't take that step, but you did it anyway. So how do you develop that trust in following that guidance of a mentor? So, just because you and I have a mentor-mentee relationship and you give me some advice that I can't see the value in yet, how do I grow that trust and that guidance you're giving me?
That's a great question. I think time is always the prover, right? I mean, time is always the one that you're going to have to see, okay, my mentor gave me this advice. Let's see if it works. And I think mentorship, I wouldn't rush it. I think it's something that happens organically. Typically, even once a week meeting might be a little too frequent in a way. I think usually twice a month or once a month, just so you can put those ideas to the test, just so you can kind of take the advice and go, okay, is this really going to work? Are these real results? Is this person, and you want to watch your mentor, do they do it as well too? And I think you go slow. I think you ease into it. In fact, when we built the MentorU tool, we wanted to start with things that were simple to share. And so the first part of it is just taking time to share your story. Everybody has a story, and you want to get to know your story, or you want your mentor to get to know you through sharing of your story. You want to get to know your mentor by them sharing their story, and just kind of finding that history and the similarities and maybe even some of your life stories that you share. And then the next part was just breaking down, okay, how are we wired? We use the word design, which is a whole nother acrostic, but discovering each other's design. And really what you're doing, you're just taking the time to get to know each other. Before you dive into the challenges and the ways you want to excel, whether in leadership or your relationships or habits in life, you really just want to get to know each other. And there's not a shortcut to that. But the beauty of mentorship is there's designed and focused time to specifically get to know that, to get to understand one another. And then that helps better determine the next step of growth. In other words, you got to understand somebody's past, and you got to understand a bit of their present situation to really be able to settle on steps for their future.
I think they're great words of wisdom there, Tom. And so I want to switch gears a little bit as we start to move up there in time. As now, if you and I have a mentor relationship, and you're going to mentor me and give me the guidance I need to be successful in my career, do you have a sense of what my responsibility should be as the mentee?
The nice thing about that mentorship is you have accountability. And by the way, that accountability swings both ways when you're mentoring. So if I'm mentoring you, definitely I'm going to be holding you accountable. Hey, did you try this out? Here's some homework. Here's the follow-up. And one of the things we set within that tool of MentorU is there's this reoccurrence of questions. How'd it go? What are you learning? What's working? What's not working? And so you're used to that, and okay, every time we get together, Tom's going to ask me how things are going. So you have a sense of accountability that I got to put this to the test, or at least I got to have an answer. And the other thing too is it swings the other way, where you get to ask me the same question. So I got to know that I'm not just telling you stuff that I'm not practicing myself, and that accountability goes both ways. So another responsibility of the mentee, I think, in order to ensure a great mentorship, is to bring questions. In the book, we loaded it with questions that we thought were great questions. The best mentorships are when you bring, as the mentee, you bring questions to the table. I know when I've asked people to mentor them, I don't want to waste their time. I want to get the most out of the time we spend together. And so often I'll come with a list of questions. And in fact, that's almost I know, a few days before I'm going to meet with them, okay, write down, what are my questions? And it might be based off of our last conversation or the things I've been trying out. And but it's so it's always best to play the student. We always learn a lot when we don't have to act like we know it all. we learn a lot when we can just play the student and ask a million questions and do that. And I expect that anybody I mentor, I tell them that up front. I'm going, okay, we have some set questions, but you need to bring your own. You're going to get the most out of it if you do that.
I think that there's some really great advice in this. And you've talked about, we introduced you as the author of MentorU, and you've mentioned MentorU a couple times. Could you give us a little review about your book and tell us what it's all about?
Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing is I co-wrote this book with a good friend of mine. But back in my youth ministry days, this was a kid that I mentored, and now he's an author, and he's actually a pastor himself in another state. And he has a lot to say on it, too, just from his experience as the mentee. And so we co-authored this book. And really the reason we built this book was because we couldn't find anything else like it. I was looking for something I knew mentorship was important. I knew its value in my own career and my own success. And I wanted that for others. But what I couldn't seem to find was a good starting point. How do you get this thing rolling? And I also knew that mentorship, it's a fearful thing. We talked about the resolve. There's some anxiety to it. There's some fear to do it. We know it's good for us, but we don't quite know how to get it rolling. And so that's why we created MentorU. We created it as kind of a universal first step for anybody who wants to start mentoring that leads then to the individual's next step, because everybody's next step is going to be different based off their growth. And really that's what MentorU builds after you go through the book. You build towards a strategic growth plan for the individual being mentored. Which, by the way, I want to say this too. If you're being a mentor, you're always fed more when you're feeding. And it's not a one-sided relationship. And every time I've mentored somebody else, I have grown immensely. And it's amazing too, because you get that immediate feedback. You'll say something that you think might be totally profound, and you get that immediate feedback whether or not that was actually profound or not. So, I mean, and you grow in it too as you're testing your own knowledge. You're seeing if, are they receptive to what you're saying, and how much do you believe it? And so there's really growth on both ends there. But the book itself, we created because we couldn't find a tool like it, and we wanted to take some of the fear and anxiety out of mentorship. We wanted to go, here, try this. This should get it rolling. And part of the beauty of that too is that the book gets to play the role of the expert. In other words, if you, Chris, if you asked me to mentor you, I'm not too sure what I could teach you, but either way, if we go through it together, the book gets to be the expert. I don't. I get to be the guy who goes through it with you and have the opportunity to pour into you as we go along. And that kind of takes the pressure off too. I don't have to be the guru. I just have to be the willing participant who values you and wants the best for you and wants you to grow.
And I think that's awesome. And I think one of the things that I took from that really is, I may be mentoring you in an area that I had, developed years ago. But I really like how you said that in the sense of, as I'm bringing that up, it's really grounding me towards my own foundation of where I grew from. And it's something that I may not have thought about in a long time, but it may be a skill that you need that I had to have some challenges with before I developed. So I think you really bring up some really great points there. So, Tom, I think what I want to ask you is if people want to get their hands on MentorU, or if they may want to give you a call to engage with you on developing a good mentorship practice, what's the best way they can do that?
Sure. For one, MentorU is available on Amazon through Prime too, so you can get the quick shipping. So you can look that up. And by the way, it's MENTOR and the letter U. So just help you there too. But you can also find more information about the book. You can even contact me through the website of mentoru.info. Get more information about the book. If you want to reach out to me personally, I'm loving right now LinkedIn, so I'm just having fun with that. I've got room for more connections. So if you want to reach out and look me up on LinkedIn, my name's Tom Goodlet, Goodlet, and I'd love to chat with you. In fact, we got to know each other a little bit, Chris, through LinkedIn, and I'm loving that tool right now, and that'd be a great way for us to connect.
So, Tom, I got to tell you, you gave us a lot of great information and some really great tips on how to develop as a mentor, but secondarily, how to be a mentee in that relationship. Now, you have a new book that's coming out. Maybe just give us a little brief overview about that, and then promise us you'll come back when that comes out so we can discuss it with you.
Yeah, Chris, the book that's coming out here the soonest is actually Mentor Us. We're doing a version where couples can mentor other couples, and we've seen this is, I think we're going to do both a premarital where couples who've been married for a while can mentor couples getting ready to be married, and have plenty to provide there. But we're also looking at maybe doing just one for couples in general, where you have an older couple that's mentoring a younger couple, and it's a great resource to them to just kind of go through some of those basics for a successful marriage. And so we're taking a lot of the tools, we're tweaking them a bit, but I'm really looking forward to that. That should come out sometime in the fall of 2017, Mentor Us. And yeah, so that's one of our big projects coming down the pike.
Well, it sounds exciting, and I can't wait to talk to you more about that when that comes out. Promise us you'll come back and kind of give us an overview for the folks out there that may be interested in it.
Absolutely, man. This is a blast.
Tom Goodlet, I want to thank you for joining us on the Ultimate Leadership Podcast. And for everybody out there, I want to challenge you to, find someone that you can trust, find someone that can guide you, find someone that can help you move your career to the next level. Secondarily, for the people who are out there who are established, there are a lot of people now who could benefit from your experience, who can benefit from your mistakes, who could benefit from your knowledge. And I have to tell you that when we think about leadership, we define leadership as influence. And one of the things that we need to try to do is we need to try to influence someone every day. And the best way we can do that is a mentor. So everyone out there, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm Chris Saballero, and I look forward to chatting with everyone again real soon.
Thank you for joining us. The Ultimate Leadership Podcast is a production of chrissabellero.com. You can interact with us by email at ultimateleadership16@gmail.com. All rights reserved.